Alright guys, Darren from FBA Elite and welcome back to another video. So in this week's video, we're going to be looking at some of the most common Amazon product research mistakes that I see that end up costing people thousands of pounds and often their Amazon FBA business. So I've been selling on Amazon for 5 years and I've been mentoring other sellers for about 4 years. And I've seen hundreds of examples of people that have launched products that didn't work out. And I would say in probably 9 out of 10 instances, the failures could have been avoided if they had spotted these issues at the product research stage. So my goal with this video is to get you guys to be on the lookout for these potential issues so that you don't make these mistakes and you can go on to have a successful Amazon FBA business. So I'm not sure exactly how many mistakes I've got to show you in this video. It's going to be somewhere around the 10 mark. But I've got some good examples to show you and it's really going to help you. And if you've already chosen a product, go and check these things to make sure you're not digging yourself into a hole. So the first product I want to use as an example, this is one I came across this morning. It's actually in quite an interesting niche. So for those of you that are looking for product ideas at the moment, you might want to explore this one in a bit more detail. But I thought this product was a good example, as one of the most common mistakes that I see is people end up analyzing the wrong search term and then they make decisions based on incorrect data. So how can someone ever make the best informed decision if they're looking at the wrong data? So this particular product we've got in front of us, this is a laptop tray that allows you to basically work on the sofa on your lap or maybe sitting on your bed with your laptop, and also you can have a mouse next to it. Now, what a lot of people would do is they would look at this and they'd look at the first search terms and assume that these are correct. So they'd look at this and go, oh, this is a lap desk. That does bring up some comparable results, which I'll come back to in a moment, as that is another potential mistake. But you can see actually these are slightly different products. I would say this is more for a bed and this is more for a sofa. So for me, this isn't the best keyword to use, but some people might think, right, lap desk, this is the best search term to use for this product. Whereas what I did is I used the search expander that's built in when you install Helium 10, and I tried other search terms, and I come across laptop tray, which has a search volume of 6,200, whereas lap desk only had a search volume of just under 2,000, so a third of the volume. So laptop tray is the best search term to analyze for this product. And if we look at the results in comparison, let me just bring up X-ray for both of these products. So I've got lap desk here, and this brings me on to another mistake. People that don't filter out the sponsored results. So anything with SP here, these are paid adverts. You want to filter these, otherwise they will muddy the waters and not make your analysis accurate. So make sure you tick this box here to hide sponsored products from the results. Let's do that for both sets of search results. And then when we compare these, as much as you would assume the results would be quite similar, actually things are quite different. Okay, the top 2 sellers are the same, but below that, the demand is quite different. So for lap desk, after the first 6 listings, we dropped down to below 100 sales, really, quite for many of the search results. Whereas for laptop tray, the demand actually stays in the 1 to 200 region. So this much might be much more appealing to someone than someone that's looked at lap desk and gone no and just ruled out this product. But if you look through here on the thumbnails, these products aren't directly comparable. Some of them are laptop trays, some of them look like more like bed trays, and some of them may even be kind of desk style ones, like that one there for people that want to work on their desk. Whereas a laptop tray, as you can see, is much more specific to this type of product. So the search results are much more comparable. So it's much more helpful when you're doing an analysis as you're analyzing one. So the first mistake is make sure you're using the correct search term. Number 2 is analyzing products that are comparable. You know, an extreme example for this would be, for example, gifts for women or gifts for her. There's little point analyzing this niche as none of the products are comparable. If you're interested in any of these products, you need to go into the individual niches and see what the stats are like there. Not make a decision based on one product that's managed to get well ranked for a super high volume keyword that probably you're unlikely to be able to repeat. So that's why it's so important you analyze products that are comparable and you use the correct search term, and also you exclude sponsored results from the search results. So those are the first 3 mistakes. Now the rest of these we can do pretty much from one screen. So let's bring X-ray back up for laptop tray. Like I said at the start of the video, I quite like this niche, so it's a good example to run through. So the mistakes you need to be aware of. This mistake, I find it baffling that so many people overlook this, and this is seasonality. So many people send me products like on a daily basis that are obviously seasonal. And there are 3 ways you can tell whether a product is seasonal. One is just using your common sense. I mean, some products are obviously going to be seasonal. Number 2, looking at the search volume history. And for me, that is the most accurate indicator, as it will show you how the search volume fluctuates throughout the year. And that is a clear indicator of seasonality. And number 3, you can look at the individual sales history of each product. The only downside to that is you have to remember that product ranks will fluctuate throughout the year. So there's not always a direct representation of seasonality, but often if you look at enough products, you'll see a pattern between them. And if you marry that up to the search volume, that will give you a clearer indication of seasonality. So if we take a look at the search volume history for this particular product, put it on the 1-year view, we can see there is very clearly a peak in October up to December. So basically the Christmas peak. Then it slows down as we head into the summer. Now, this would be a concern depending on what your approach is to this product. If your baseline is you're happy with the current sales, so we know we're at the low point of the year, and you're looking at this thinking, yeah, I'll be quite happy with 150 sales per month, then this seasonality maybe isn't as big a concern as if you analysed it here in December, January, hoping to sell 400 or 500 units per month, and then all of a sudden the demand drops off massively throughout the rest of the year. So that's why it's to be important to be aware of seasonality. The other thing that I noticed that was super interesting with this product, if we put it on all-time view, we can see these same peaks. So this was December 22, this was December 21, and this was December 2020. And what this is a clear indicator of is probably less and less people are working from home. You can see this decline because people are returning to work after what happened over the past few years. So this is why seasonality is super important. It can tell you about seasonality, but also about product trends as well. And look at this. So it does look like we are starting to potentially bottom off here. So maybe demand won't drop much lower. But if you are seriously considering this product, you need to be fully aware that this may drop down again next year, but also you're going to see a spike as you move into Q4. So seasonality is another mistake that I see so many people make. They do not check that, and they start making large orders based on because they've analyzed during peak season, or they're not ordering enough because they've analyzed it during low season. So it's just something you need to be aware of. So from left to right, just to recap this, we make sure the products are comparable, which we've already done in this niche to make sure these are all laptop trays. Now, there are a couple in this one, in the search results, what look to be more like bed tables. But as long as you focus on the ones that are directly comparable and you're happy with those stats, it's not the end of the world if there's a couple of mixed results in there. The next thing I want you to focus on is brand domination. Now, I want to be clear about this, and I've been in the past. So I've always said if you can see too many from one particular brand, stay away from the niche. But I no longer look at it that way. The way I look at it now is it a big brand that you would recognize? So, for example, if we take football boots, let's run X-ray on football boots. People are going to be making decisions in this niche based on brand awareness. So let me just filter out the sponsored results first. So people might be buying Adidas, or they're buying Puma, or they're buying Nike. So you're never going to be able to compete with products what people are buying because of the brand name. But if you're in another niche, so for example, if we come back to the laptop tray, and say for example you had these guys here, you know, Huanwo dominating the niche. I've got 3 products in this niche, but it's not as big an issue as any potential new customers aren't going to be buying this based on their brand, as there is no brand recognition. So my main issue with brands is if it is a mainstream brand, that people are more likely to buy those products because of the brand and not how many times the brand itself appears in that list. Now moving on to the next one, and this is a big one. This will absolutely destroy your business before it even gets going if you get this wrong. Do not sell cheap product via Amazon FBA. With the amount of money you're going to spend on Amazon fees, so both the fulfillment fee and the referral fee, don't forget about returns and storage fees, plus the PPC you're going to have to spend to get ranked organically and maintain those ranks. If you're selling a product, and this is if you're a new seller and you're not VAT registered, do not sell a product below £15. If you're VAT registered, do not touch a product below £20. Otherwise, the margins are just not there, and you'll be chasing your tail, and you'll be losing a lot of money if you try and launch a product for £7, £8, £9 as your first product. So as a new Amazon seller, you want to be selling as high value product as possible, an absolute minimum of £15 for new sellers that are not VAT registered. The next column is sales. And again, another huge mistake I see is that people think lots of sales is a good sign and they need to enter that niche. So a lot of people would prefer to go in a niche where you've got 10 or 20 sellers doing 1,000 units per month than come into this niche where you've got 5, 6, 7, 8 sellers selling 1 to 200 units per month, even if they only want to sell a couple of hundred units per month. But you need to find the right balance between your budget and goals and the niche you're going into. If you try and go into a niche where the sales are too strong and you've only got a couple of hundred units, you're never going to make any progress. In order to get ranked well organically, you have to pretty much at least match, but preferably surpass the sales numbers that exist on the first page already. So if I was coming into this niche and I wanted to get ranked in, I guess, in the top 10 organic results, I'm going to be targeting probably 200 sales per month. So I need to sell 6 to 7 units per day. Now, if I got my listing right and with the right product, I could probably do that with a PPC spend of somewhere between £30 to £50 per day. And then hopefully within a few weeks, my organic ranks will be high enough and I could start making profitable sales. Whereas if I come into this niche with the same amount of stock, I needed to sell 1,000 units to get anywhere near to being ranked, I'm going to spend hundreds of pounds on PPC. I'm going to run out of stock within a couple of weeks, and then there's going to be a massive gap before the next batch arrives. So you need to look at how many sales are being sold per month. How much inventory can you realistically afford? Your first order needs to be for at least 2 months worth of stock, but preferably 3 months. So if things start to go well, you can order that second batch and you can get it here before you run out of stock for that first batch. So don't pick a high demand niche. Pick a niche where the sales targets are around the level that you can afford to maintain stock for those couple of months. We've got the revenue column here, which is basically, it's just a result of your price and sales. So you multiply those two together. So you can do your product research based on revenue. That's fine. Just be very clear about how that revenue is being achieved. Make sure it's being achieved by sales that you can hit and you can afford that inventory, and also at a price point that will provide profit levels that are worth actually you getting involved in. There's no point seeing really good revenue, but you've got to make 1,000 sales at £10 per unit. Otherwise, you're not going to make any money as a new seller. Another mistake I see people overlook is the amount they're going to spend on fees. And this has been complicated over the past few months as Amazon has introduced a new fee structure called dimensional weight. So it's no longer just a simple case of how big is your product or how much does your product weigh. They've now got this new metric, which is you take your dimensions, you multiply them together, and then you divide by 5,000, and that gives you your dimensional weight. So your fulfillment fee could be very different to what you think it might be. So you need to be aware of your fees at all stages. So to give you an example, if we take a product, let's say it was 30 centimeters by 30 centimeters by 30 centimeters, and maybe your product only weighed 1 kilogram. Under Amazon's calculations, if we divide that by 5,000, they would say, no, your product actually weighs 5.4 kilograms. So it's very important to be aware of dimensional weight and how that could potentially impact your fulfillment fee, as that's going to make a big difference to your overall profit margins. The next mistake I see is people focusing too much on review counts. So they'll look at this niche and they'll be like, no, lots of people got 3 or 4 figure reviews, and they'll leave the niche. The truth is someone's been selling on Amazon for a year or so, the chances are they're going to have 3-figure review counts. That's absolutely fine. What you need to focus on is your product going to be distinct enough from the existing listings? The more similar your product is to the listings that already exist, the more important the review count and review score is. But if you develop a unique product that looks different, has unique features that the other products do not have, regardless of the review count, customers are going to be picking your products for other reasons. But if your product is comparable, they're going to pick it based on price and review count. So don't just exclude products blindly because there's lots of reviews in the niche. Have a think about the product. Can you develop it to add a visual selling point and add some unique functions and features that will help your product stand out? If so, the number of reviews are less important. We've then got the size tier, and this is still very important despite the dimensional weight that I was talking about. Amazon still puts products into different size tiers. And I would recommend trying to stay in the standard parcel or below, as soon as you get into any of the oversized tiers, the fulfillment fees go up very, very steeply, and it can really, really hit those margins. Now, fulfillment, if you see a lot of MFN in here, which is basically fulfilled by merchant, sometimes that means the product is particularly heavy or large, or you're not allowed to sell it on Amazon in the first place. So see that as a red flag. You always want to see a good mixture of FBA sellers mixed in the search results. Dimensions and weight, we've already covered with the risk of the dimensional weight, so always check that. And the final one is creation date. If you see lots of listings, lots of new listings, you've got to be asking yourself, why there's so many new listings? Is this just a fad product, or is this a restricted product, so people launch the product and then it gets kicked off, so a new seller comes in? Or if you've got loads of old listings and there's no one added a new product within the last year or two, does it show it's very, very difficult to break into the top search results? So I like to see a mixture, which is what we've got here. We've got some from 2019, 2020, 2022, and even one or two in the past year, or those look very, very new because I haven't got enough stats yet to actually see how they are doing. So this niche has a reasonable mixture of listings that are anything from a few months old to a few years old. But if you see all old listings or all brand new listings, that should raise some red flags. Now, I don't know how many mistakes or potential issues I've covered in this video, but hopefully you guys have found it helpful. Now, if you do want to do your own product research with the best software, just use Helium 10. It's what I've been using for the past 5 years. Use discount code FBA Elite 20. That will save you 20% off for the first 6 months. Or you can use FBA Elite 10, and that will save you 10% off forever. Or use either of those discount codes and pay annually, and that will save you 25% off for the year, which is the most cost-effective way to pay for Helium 10. Now, if you want to see exactly how I use Helium 10 and all of the tools within Helium 10 that I use to help me with my Amazon FBA business, I'm going to pop up a full tutorial video in front of me now, and I'll see you guys over there.